All right, our next tab is factoring a trinomial. Okay, and we're talking about when it's in this form, this ax squared plus bx plus c. Right. Normally in standard form we do have an a here, but let's say we don't have a number. Basically, nothing is in front. Okay, but an invisible one. All right, so when we factor, the key to factoring or to solving is we need the equation to equal to 0 first of all. Okay, so right here, what I was hoping you can recognize is that even though it says y equals, if I see the y, I can substitute that with 0 and make that equal to the x squared plus 11x plus 18. All right, so now the key to this is kind of paying attention to the last term, which is what we call the c. And I'm going to do that in a different color, sorry. So pay attention to the last term, which is the c, and we have to pay attention to the middle term, which is this 11 here. Because we're looking for factors of c that have a sum of b, the middle term. So because if I had this in the standard form, and I'm just going to write it right here above it, x squared plus bx plus c, I can see that my c is the 18 and my b, the number in front of x, is the 11. So whenever we have trinomials, we try to factor using a factor, what I call a factor puzzle. Factoring is dealing with multiplication, so we make a big times symbol right here. And the setup of this x puzzle is that at the top of the puzzle of the x is your, what we call the c. Okay. And at the bottom is what we call our b, our middle term. So the top is always, and I'm going to write this in a smaller font, is the last term. If you can read that. And the bottom is the middle term. And what happens here when we factor, on the left and right of our x are the factors. Okay. So when we're thinking about factors, and I'm just going to kind of write it over here to the side underneath here, we are talking about things that we multiply together and things that we add together. Going to put an M for multiplication, A for add. So we're looking for factors for our C, and our C here is 18. So that's what I was doing earlier. So I was splitting it up. Our factors would be 1 times 18, 2 times 9. Okay. So we're looking for the factors that add up to the middle term, and our middle term is the 11. So that goes at the bottom here. So we're trying to get a sum of 11. Well, 2 plus 9 would give us 11. So that lets me know my factors. My factors are 2 and 9. Or you can say 9 and 2. It's the same thing, okay? And this is what I'm going to take and put into my factor form. So the factor form for these two factors is going to be our two parentheses. It's going to be x plus 9, and because 9 was positive, and x plus 2. And this is going to equal 0 for me to solve it. So what we need you to make sure you understand, this part, the part that shows the parentheses, is our factor form. Okay. When I solve my factor form, I'm solving each one, each factor. So I'm setting my x plus 9 equal to 0, and I'm setting my x plus 2 equal to 0, and I'm solving each one. Well, here I just have to subtract 9, and I get x equals negative 9. Here, subtract 2, I get x equals negative 2. And that's kind of like a little trick. There's a little shortcut here, is that if I go back to my factors, which are the 9 and the 2, your solution, solving for x, like getting to the actual x-intercept on the graph, the zeros, okay? These all mean are always the opposite. So because I had 2, our solution was a -2. Because I have a +9, our solution was a -9. So a lot of people, once they see our factors here, one of the things that they do as a shortcut, once they get that, they just say, oh, the answer is opposite, and they go straight to the solution. So you could do that as well. So let's try another one, okay? First, we need to remember this is changing that to equal to 0, and then we have m squared plus 9m plus 14. And then when I go to my puzzle, what number should go on top? The last number, which is 14. Number on the bottom should be our 9. We're trying to come up with factors of 14 to have a sum of 9. Well, that's 2 and 7. Okay. So now I see that my factors are m plus 2 and m plus 7 equals 0. Now, remember, this is the factor form. You want to list your factor form because sometimes they might have it written in this form as an answer choice. But to solve it, I'm solving each factor equal to 0. So this m plus 2, and some of you already saw the answer mentally because we remember what I just said on the previous problem. Whatever my factors are is going to end up being the opposite of that. So minus 2, yep, that's going to be the opposite of cancel. So m equals -2 as one solution, and m equals -7 as the other solution. Okay. So let's look at 7. Let's let you try number 7. It's already equal to 0, so let's just go to create a puzzle so we can figure out our factors. Hopefully, if I see a negative down here, that means and a positive at the top, that means our factors are gonna have to be negative. That's a clue, okay? So hopefully you saw, oops, sorry, a -4 and a -2. So this would be y minus 4 and y minus 2 equals 0. And then if we remember the shortcut, and I'm not sure why that's highlighted right now, but I'll fix that. Delete that. Remember the shortcut. Get to that. We do the opposite. So I don't need you to show the work. You can just say, okay, I know y equals a +4 and y equals a +2. Those are our answers here. All right, let's make sure we get this down. Now, number 8 is slightly different, just in the fact that this is 15 is equal to this binomial, and we need the equation to equal to 0. So basically, I need to do the opposite to eliminate this 15, so I can get a 0 there. So that would mean I would do -15 on both sides of the equal sign. This creates my 0. And then these are not like terms. We just rewrite it high to low. So we'll go w squared plus 2w, then -15. Now from here, now I can do my puzzle. Okay, -15 is the last term. The 2 is the middle term. I'm looking for factors. And here's another clue. If I have a negative at the top here, the only way I can get a negative product is if one's positive and one's negative. So here our factors should be a -3 and a +5. So that the sum is going to end up being positive. So my factor form is w minus 3, since it's -3, and w plus 5. These are equal to 0. So that means our w is a +3 and our w is a -5. These are our two solutions. Okay. So the summary, the things we need to know, right? The first thing is this summary is for only when we have a trinomial that looks like this, okay? I mean, it does not have a coefficient in the front. That coefficient is invisible 1. So whenever we see in this form, we have to remember to factor, we want factors of the C, which is the last term, that add up to B. And that B is representing the middle term. Okay. All right. All right, so that takes care of that tab. Thanks, guys.